Hey everyone, my name is Arissa, and today we will be reviewing AICE International History Chapter 1.2. Let's get right into it. Chapter 1.2 is What was the impact of imperial expansion on international relations? Let's discuss the impact of growth of overseas empires on relations between European nations. In the late 19th century, European nations were rivals, competing for raw materials, markets, trade, and territory. In a period of intense nationalism, European governments were determined to protect their own rights and interests, to gain as much overseas territory as possible, and to defend their empires. Moreover, public opinion demanded that they did so. National pride was at stake, and increasingly, countries were prepared to adopt aggressive foreign policies to preserve this pride. This naturally opened up the risk of direct conflict breaking out between European nations. In 1898, a clash between the rival African ambitions of Britain and France almost led to war. While France was expanding rapidly eastward from French West Africa, the British were expanding southwards from Egypt towards the Cape. Their paths crossed in Sudan. A French expedition under Major Marchand met at a British force led by Lord Kinchester in the village of Fashoda. Both claimed Sudan for their respective countries. The Fashoda incident led to widespread outrage in both Britain and France, with each country accusing the other of unjustified aggression. Both nations began mobilizing their fleets before a compromise was eventually reached. France recognized British possession of Egypt and Sudan, while Britain formally acknowledged the French presence in Morocco. Despite the obvious risks, there were no wars between any of the major European powers from 1871 to 1914. Nevertheless, imperial rivalry helped instigate an arms race. This was particularly evident after Wilhelm II became Kaiser of Germany in 1888. Wilhelm embarked on a policy of Weltpolitik, which involved actively seeking overseas possessions, or as he termed it, a place in the sun. Britain saw Germany's acquisitions in Africa as a threat to its own strategic and commercial interests. Moreover, in 1906, Germany embarked on a naval development program. Kaiser Wilhelm explained in an interview with a British journalist in 1908, Germany is a young and growing empire. It has a worldwide commerce which is rapidly expanding. Germany must have a powerful fleet to protect that commerce and many interests in even the most distant seas. German naval development caused alarm in Britain, which argued that Germany's overseas possessions were not sufficient to warrant such a large navy. Britain was concerned that while its own navy was dispersed around the world to protect its large empire, the German navy would be connected in the North Sea, posing a threat to British security. This led to a naval arms race that greatly increased tensions between Britain and Germany. The French, still incensed by their humiliating defeat in the Franco-Prussian War, also felt threatened by Germany's aggressive foreign policy. In 1904, Britain and France signed an agreement known as the Entente Cordiale, which settled long-standing imperial rivalries between the two countries in North Africa. In March 1905, Kaiser Wilhelm made an aggressive speech in the Moroccan city of Tangiers, making it clear that Germany favored an independent Morocco. Okay, let me redo that. In March 1905, Kaiser Wilhelm made an aggressive speech in the Moroccan city of Tangiers, making it clear that Germany favored an independent Morocco. Rather than causing a split between Britain and France, his warlike speech had the opposite effect. Britain continued to support French claims, and these were largely upheld at an international conference in Algiers, in early 1906. In 1911, the Kaiser sent a gunboat, the Panther, to the Moroccan port of Agadir. Britain sided with France, and the Kaiser backed down. So, turning to China, let's discuss disputes with China over imperial expansion, the Boxer Rebellion. With a civilization dating back thousands of years, the Chinese considered themselves superior to other countries. China was self-contained, with no need or desire to trade with other countries. But the Industrial Revolution in Western Europe brought over an increasing need for raw materials and new markets. What Europeans could not get by agreement, they achieved by force. Defeated by Britain in the Opium Wars, China granted Britain control over Hong Kong and preferential trading status. Britain, France, Russia, Germany, and Japan all established spheres of influence in which they built railways, factories, and ignored Chinese laws and took political control. Chinese nationalists, angered by their government's failure to prevent foreigners gaining increasing influence in their own country, took up arms in what became known as the Boxer Rebellion from 1898 to 1901. An eight-nation alliance involving Britain, Russia, Japan, France, the USA, Germany, Italy, and Austria-Hungary took Peking and defeated the rebellion. The Chinese government was forced to pay $67 million in compensation. The humiliation of China was complete. Let's turn over to tensions between Britain and Germany over South Africa. In South Africa, Britain had taken control of Cape Colony following the Napoleonic. In South Africa, Britain had taken control of Cape Colony following the Napoleonic. One more time. In South Africa, Britain had taken control of Cape Colony following the Napoleon Wars. This created tensions with farmers of Dutch descent known as Boers. Fueled by resentment towards British rule, many Boers left Cape Colony in what became known as the Great Trek, settling in the outermost republics of the Transvaal and the Orange Free State. Further discoveries of gold deposits in the Transvaal in 1886 brought many new settlers, mostly British, who were denied political and economic rights. In 1899, the Boer leader Kruger demanded the withdrawal of British troops and full independence. When Britain refused, Kruger declared war. The Second Boer War from 1899 to 1902 saw Britain dramatically increase its forces. After early Boer victories, British troops captured the Transvaal capital. The Boers then adopted guerrilla tactics. Britain's victory was confirmed by the Treaty of Vereeniging in 1902. However, victory came at a steep price. The power of British Empire had been severely challenged by the relatively small number of Boer farmers. The war cost the British taxpayer more than 200 million euros. Britain was condemned for deploying scorched earth strategies and for establishing concentration camps in which 3,000 civilians died. The Boer Wars left Britain feeling isolated and vulnerable. So let's move into attempts to resolve tensions between imperial nations. Despite all these tensions, European statements did everything possible to avoid war. The Berlin Conference from 1884 to 1885, organized by Bismarck, was designed to regulate European imperialism in Africa and prevent direct conflict. The Treaty of Berlin stated that free passage should be given to all ships on the Niger and Congo rivers, that slavery should be abolished throughout Africa, and that to take possession of a territory, a European nation must demonstrate that the territory was effectively occupied. Any dispute should be settled by negotiation rather than war. The Treaty of Shimonoseki of 1895, following Japan's victory over China, caused alarm in Russia. Russia had been seeking to gain control over Port Arthur as a warm water port. With the support of France and Germany, Russia put diplomatic pressure on Japan to return Port Arthur to China. This became known as the Triple Intervention. Japan reluctantly agreed, but Japanese resentment of the Triple Intervention was to have far-reaching consequences. War between the imperial nations had been avoided, but tensions still remained. Thank you for watching. This concludes our summary of Chapter 1.2 for AICE International History. I wish you the best of luck with your studies. Bye-bye!